Greetings and welcome to Basin Views, a Herald and News podcast featuring interviews with local experts discussing issues important to the Klamath Basin. I'm Kurt Lidke with the Herald and News. This week, we are joined by a trio, the team behind Joma Films, Gary and Annie Lundgren of Ashland, as well as Louis Rodriguez, creators of the film Phoenix, Oregon, which was shot last year here in Klamath Falls. The film is now making its Klamath Basin debut tonight on Thursday, May 2nd at Pelican Cinemas with 2 screenings of the movie. Gary, Annie, and Louis, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks.
Well, first I want to get into a little bit of personal background to get to know our guests before we really delve into the film and everything about it. So let's start off with Gary. A little bit about yourself, please.
Well, I ever since I can remember, I loved movies. I was a big movie fan, even as early as 12, 13, 14 years old. Began making Super 8 films, it just stuck with me. I was a cinemaphile in high school, and didn't become real to me until college when I realized that, hey, this is something maybe I could pursue to try to do. I was an English major in college, loved storytelling and loved movies. So that's when after I got my English degree, I applied to film school and went to film school in Pasadena at Art Center College of Design. And yeah, the rest is history. It's been a long road of working in the film business in one form or another.
Fantastic. And Annie, yourself?
Well, I grew up not too far from here, actually, in Northern California, over in the Scott Valley, which is west of Wairika, Fort Jones, Etna. And then after high school, I went to college down in Santa Barbara, and that's where I met Gary. And I've always been a big fan of movies and reading in all forms of art. And I also like organizing things ever since I was little. So that was a good fit for me as a producer. And we just started making movies together right away, short films first, and then that grew into developing our company, Joma Films.
And Louis, how did you get involved with all this?
So I'm from Southern Oregon, born and raised. I've always loved movies. I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, an actor. I studied a little theater in college and kind of dabbled in the idea of creating films and getting into that. It actually wasn't until Gary and Annie moved to Southern Oregon and really set up the Joma Films platform that I started getting really involved. Once I found out that they were around making feature films, I was like, let's do this. Let's go. And so just through a series of really fortunate events, I ended up connecting with Gary. He cast me in Redwood Highway. We started becoming friends. I started working with Gary and Annie from then on some small projects. And so I'm really excited to be here with them now. It's been a great journey, and I'm very thankful for them, setting up this, awesome company here in Southern Oregon. Yeah.
So how did the process go in dabbling in films first, going from your Super 8 and whatnot into deciding that you were going to launch a production company in Southern Oregon?
Well, we were in Southern California for a while. Like I said, I was at film school in Pasadena, and I worked as an assistant editor. I was in the Editors Guild, and I was working on lots of big projects, like big movies, working with Academy Award-winning editors, with on studio lots, and just really getting a good education on post-production and the politics of studio filmmaking, from the executives to the director to test screening movies to reshoots and all the above, and just seeing how it worked. And meanwhile, we were making small projects on our own, just bootstrapping small movies. We had a short film that we made that got a lot of festival attention, and that led to getting Calvin Marshall off the ground. That was actually in Southern California, but we shot it in Ashland. one of the reasons we shot it in Ashland was because Annie was from the area, and it felt like small town America, sort of, and it had a kind of an Americana storyline, baseball, disillusionment, old bars, and it just felt like a good place for that story to take place, and so it felt like it was overnight in one sense, but in another sense it was 15 years in the making before Calvin Marshall got made.
So Calvin Marshall was your first official film under the Joma Films title. Now about 10 years after the fact, right? Still going strong at this point. So what other projects have you done since Calvin Marshall?
Well, the film Louis mentioned, Redwood Highway, we made a film with Shirley Knight and Tom Skerritt. It was a story about a woman who kind of goes AWOL from her retirement community and walks to see the ocean because she hasn't seen the ocean in 45 years. So that was the story. That was a film we made in 2013, and then we made this little sci-fi thriller. It was really more of a noir film called Black Road. So yeah, 4 films in 10 years, not too bad. In between, we're doing commercial work and helping other people make their films in one form or another. But those are the 4 features we made.
So for all of the Joma projects, are they script to screen entirely in-house?
No, they're all very different. The first one, Calvin Marshall, which we put together in LA, we put together with another production company there. Some friends of ours, we had a company. And then we financed that, with them. And then Redwood Highway was with a production company up here that approached us to do that. It was Jimmy Twyman's company, so he was one of the other producers on that, along with Gary Kaut over in Ashland. So that was a group of people. And then Black Road, that was one where Gary and I really wanted to see what we could do with just under the Joma banner and make something very small and just test the boundaries of what we could do. And we did a lot of local executive producers came on board for that, and we did some crowdfunding, so it was a real locally based, crowdsourced movie.
Terrific. And Louis, when did you partner in with these two? You said Redwood Highway was the first project. Have you been working on everything ever since with them, or?
Pretty much, yeah. I worked on Black Road, and when the development of Black Road was taking place, when I found out Gary was making the movie, I was like, man, I really want to work on this. So there were some opportunities to jump on with some, co-producer credits and whatnot. So I was like, I'm all in for that. I met with Gary. I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
We had a meeting.
Remember, yeah.
And then we just talked about like what my intentions were and so on and so forth. It was a really beautiful meeting, and he just says, so what do you think? And I was like, I'm all in, man. And so we had a wonderful experience making that film. It really, I think, set a really beautiful foundation for what we were able to do with Phoenix, Oregon. The ability to take the budget that we had then and to essentially like smooth sail through a production that we felt really great about and have a nice product at the end really allowed us to be confident in going into Phoenix. So.
With every independent production and when you're working on a small team, there's a lot of hats being worn at once. The 3 of you together, have you kind of carved out your own little niche for what each of you does, or is everyone's job title miscellaneous?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. I mean, one of the things when you're making a small film, when you don't have a large budget, is that there's a lot of, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of corners to cut. Just because we don't have the resources. So, Gary's a very visionary director. He's, he's an incredible director. And so Annie and I, as producers, we really have to kind of, not necessarily that he needs protecting, but in a way protect him and make sure that he's able to stay creative and to really focus on directing. And he doesn't need to know, he needs to know what locations we're going to be at, because he needs to arrive there and he needs to think they're cool and he needs to see, the picture in his head. But he doesn't need to know necessarily like what it takes to actually get in there or the hurdles. And so I feel like there is like a disconnect between protecting Gary's creativity, and then letting, more of the logistics stuff fall on Annie and I. Yeah.
Well, location, and interestingly enough, your newest film was shot in Klamath Falls. But before we start talking about Phoenix, Oregon itself, I think we need to tell the story of how exactly it came to be shot in Klamath Falls, even though the name of it is Phoenix, Oregon.
Yeah, so we were wanting to shoot in Phoenix originally. That seemed to make sense. It's always been easy for us to stay at our own house and then, bring any crew we needed to and cast to us. But it just didn't work logistically. For one, the bowling alleys were, they really couldn't close down for us and didn't want to. So then we started a search within 6 counties, like all the way out to the coast, all the way east, and even all the way up to Portland at one point. And we were looking for a bowling alley that hadn't really revamped to all the real flashy new stuff yet, because we wanted a more nostalgic feel that reminded us of bowling when we were growing up. And we looked at a lot of them, and a lot of them were closing down and just weren't right or weren't willing to help us. And then we found Hanscom's here in Klamath Falls, and it's just the perfect place. It's exactly what we were looking for in terms of just the artistic perspective. And then Barry, you just can't beat a better partner in Barry Hanscom. He was amazing to work with and just really went out of his way to make it a great experience for us. And we shot inside the bowling alley for 8 days, and we had a few days outside too. So we were there for a good 2 weeks.
There were several locations used in the film all around Klamath Falls. There's a restaurant, the Daily Bagel, downtown. How did the various location sites come up, and why were the certain spots around Klamath Falls chosen?
Well, once we kind of had our hub of Hanscom's Bowling Alley, Bowling Center, there's this kind of challenge to make sure we're not traveling too far from it, because we shot the movie in 20 days, so you can't waste time. And so it became more of, let's exhaust all the good locations we can find in Klamath Falls that can work for the story. And it was just a team effort. We were down here.
Well, I made a map, and we went literally to probably every single restaurant and bar in Klamath Falls to find, and we ended up at Italiana's. And Gail Nicholson over there, she just was incredible again in helping us and opened her doors, and we came in and crashed her business for a couple days. So we found that experience to be true all across the board. And speaking about roles that we split up, Louie and I made a big list at the beginning, and we just basically assigned things like, okay, you take that, you take this, and he really was the lead on the locations. So, Gary had a vision, and Louie helped us really find them and then do all the permitting and all the logistics around it.
Terrific. Well, not a lot of films have been shot in this part of Southern Oregon. Ashland gets a ton of production done these days. So what was the experience like in terms of community interaction and getting locals involved in the production, working in Klamath Falls as opposed to Ashland, Medford area?
We had a wonderful experience. The production went great from the, from the pre-production when we had arrived weeks earlier to the actual shooting. We just had an all-around wonderful experience. I feel that, going back to talking about locations really quick, it wasn't like we were just like, oh, okay, let's see what we have to work with. These were great locations with amazing business owners. So from that perspective alone, we got off on a great start. And then, one of the important things with the film is obviously, background extras. So you have to have people to make the scene come to life. That aspect was pretty incredible as well. We had a lot of people that were excited about participating, and they would show up and be very enthusiastic and really help us bring those scenes to life that we needed to. And then this the city permitting and so on and so forth. It was wonderful, man. We had an excellent time out there.
I know a lot of businesses helped out not just in shoot locations, but also in providing hotels and food every day, and kind of rolled out the proverbial red carpet for the entire production and the entire cast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed at the Cerulean Hotel, which is operated by Running Y Resort, and they were amazing to us. They helped us out, and we ate at Waffle Hut. They had a spread for us every single morning, so we had breakfast. and we visited a lot of the local restaurants.
Yeah, that was really nice. We were literally getting up in the morning and then just walking across the parking lot, and they had a huge breakfast every morning, man. The entire time we were here, and that, may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal, man. Especially when you're on a time crunch and when everybody's just, trying to scatter in the morning. So it was really great.
Yeah, because on the bigger movies you see all the big trailers. Well, we don't have that, and they follow you around with food, and so they always have food whenever you need it. So we're always having to come up with it. So having the businesses really partner with us on that was huge.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Phoenix, Oregon itself. What was the inspiration behind this film?
Well,
I love this story. I just want to make sure that it all gets included. Is that in talking about how Louis got involved with us as we started thinking about making our next movie? The story really came about because of these guys' friendship. So you can take it from there.
Yeah, I always wanted to make a movie about midlife crisis. I like to say that when you're in your 30s, you feel like your whole life is in front of you. And quickly that changes, where suddenly it's not in front of you anymore. And just a few years can pass, really, where your perspective shifts, and now it's like, oh my God, I'm staring at the abyss now. And so from that standpoint, I pictured sort of a lonely protagonist who's working through stuff. At the time I was writing this, I was spending a lot of time with Louis and his family, and he's got this great family and extended family, and that all care about each other, and on the weekends they're all together hanging out, and so I got to experience Latino culture up close, about just the love and the sort of relationships that they had together, and I think it just seemed so cool, and I think a lot of our families, at least from my experience, are spread out, and you don't see them that much. So it just became this catalyst for the story, where maybe this lonely character had a good Latino friend who sort of was a breath of fresh air in this guy's life, and so that was sort of the foundation of the story. Could talk a lot more about the story and how it evolved from there, but those two characters are kind of the heartbeat of the movie.
Sure. So it's a comedy that's sort of based around the concept of a midlife crisis and feeling like you're in a dead-end job and just saying, screw it, I'm just going to pursue passions. So the story, without giving it away, the entire thing is some friends buy a bowling alley and they feel like they have the world's greatest pizza, and so they're going to combine pizza with bowling and create this whole nostalgic atmosphere for people, and chaos ensues, right?
Yeah. I think that's a good sort of teeing up the story for sure. I think it's a dramedy. I hopefully that word doesn't scare people off. But I think it's a human story of real people who hopefully audiences will relate to, and I think there's some nice bits of comedy in it. I mean, Kevin Corrigan gives a wonderfully strange, hilarious performance in the movie. Diedrich Bader also playing the sort of insecure boss at the Italian restaurant. He's funny in it, and I think basically walking that line between comedy and drama, I find very fun to do, and hopefully when people see the movie, they'll experience that.
The casting seems to follow a theme with your productions, and with a lot of independent films, you can't necessarily afford the A-list superstar that's going to come in, but every one of your films seems to have a really quality, at least one of those, oh, you're that guy from that one thing, personas thrown into the cast. Great character actors. Steve Zahn was in Calvin Marshall, of course. You've got some returning people who've worked with you in previous projects. In this one, of course, Diedrich Bader. Everyone will know him as that guy with the deep voice who was on that TV show. For those who don't know, he was on the Drew Carey Show, and he's been in a whole bunch of movies and all that. So how do you manage to get these fantastic character actors to join on board with independent projects?
Well, I think our team, I think, like to say, we all have pretty good taste. Like, we know how many great actors are out there and the kinds of roles they're getting, and there's criminally underused actors out there that could really carry films or carry a whole TV series. They're that good, that talented, and our partner with casting, she's a co-producer on this movie, but Christine Sheik's in LA. She's cast all our movies. She has just great taste, great instincts. Like Steve Zahn was her idea on Calvin Marshall. She cast Boogie Nights. Burt Reynolds was her idea in Boogie Nights. So it's like you need a casting director who thinks outside the box and knows those sort of brilliant, underused actors who love to sink their teeth into roles, and so it's a process. We talk through it, we make lists, we think about who's gettable, who will work for little to no money, and then you hope when you send the script they like it, But to get James LeGros and Jesse Borrego out here in Klamath Falls in the spring for a month, it's not easy to do, and so we're very, very grateful.
Those are names that you may not necessarily recognize on the late show talk circuit, but when you look at their IMDb page, it reads like an encyclopedia. It is incredible the amount of work that these actors have been involved in. So what made the final decision to go with these particular individuals, and how did they work out overall in the film?
Well, I think we could all speak to that. I'll say that we love our cast in this movie. I think when you watch the film, you'll see how good this cast is, and I think it's a matter of being, so there's a certain amount of luck involved. I think you write these parts and you need talented actors to step up. I think James LeGros is always kind of on my mind as playing the lead, and we worked with him briefly on Redwood Highway, and to be honest, I was thinking there's no way he's going to be able to come out here for a month for a SAG low budget movie, but luckily he enjoyed working with us. He remembered us well, and he really wanted to do it, and he had to move his schedule around, and he actually had to say no to something, move something back to make it happen. From there...
Yeah, and then, Jesse Borrego was actually introduced to us by another friend, one of Louis' friends, and if you watch the movie, his part of Carlos, it's a character that has a lot of hope and is always dreaming and always really pushing the story forward and encouraging other people to, take risks and go for their dreams. And the great thing about Jesse is that he really is Carlos. I like to say he's more Carlos than Carlos. Yeah. And he's amazing. And he's actually either on an airplane right now or on his way to Liverpool in the UK to do a Fame reunion. Mm-hmm. So he was on the Fame television series. So in terms of the encyclopedia on IMDb, that's who Jesse Borrego is. And he's done a ton of other stuff.
Yeah, he's incredible. I think it's important to note that even though the actors are not, A-listers, like we had talked from the beginning of just getting the best actors possible. And again, with that said, that they're not, on the A-list, they're actors that are consistently working, and they don't need to do the movie. Gary wrote a great script. He had a great vision for the film, and they wanted to help him tell the story. So they came in giving 110%. And we felt that, I think, every day on set, and you could see it in the movie. Yeah,
and then Kevin Corrigan and Lisa Edelstein, they happen to be good friends of James, and so they came on board a lot having to do with him. And I think most people are going to they will know who Lisa Edelstein is, and Dietrich Bader for sure. They're both on television shows right now.
And I'll say too, Ray Gallegos, he is a terrific actor. And he works on nothing but just huge movies, which is funny. Like he plays small parts, and like he was on Triple Frontier, which is just on Netflix with an incredible cast. And he actually flew out from Hawaii to Southern Oregon to play for a couple days and then go back to Hawaii. So
He went back to hang out with Ben Affleck, dude, on the set of a major film. Yeah.
Well, the film does have a bowling theme, and while there's been some great bowling movies, there's one that always kind of stands above the rest. And I think from day one that you entered into this, you probably thought, how do we avoid being compared to The Big Lebowski? Or do you just openly embrace it and say, hey, we're a bowling movie too, and we're funny too, and there can be more than just one?
yeah, it definitely, there's definitely some insecurity there. But Lebowski is such an incredible, funny movie with some, iconic bowling scenes in it. I always felt that this was just a different movie, so I felt like, there wouldn't be any comparisons probably, and I don't think there will be. I think our humor, it's much more rooted in Bobby's story of trying to get his life together. It's not a straight comedy by any stretch, even though there's comedy in it. I think there's more bowling in our movie too. Like, I would say perhaps out of all the bowling movies, there might be more bowling in this movie, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Because bowling's really hard to film. That's what we learned. But we have a lot of strikes on screen, and our actors did great.
There's a tournament. There's a. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think with our marketing, it's not just a bowling movie. It's really a movie about these characters and their growth, and it is funny. But bowling is the backdrop for that story and for their character arcs.
So there were local people heavily involved in producing this film as well. I know Ryan Niemi was involved in it, and Kim Piper. How did those connections come about?
Well, I knew Ryan for a while. Ryan's just this amazing person, incredibly smart, incredibly generous. I mean, he helped on Black Road with our DCPs. At the time, to screen a movie in a theater, you needed a digital cinema package. It was this new thing that, forget the film prints had gone away. Because on Calvin Marshall, we screened film print. And so he helped me make those for free. He was just a guy that donated his time and said, hey, I know how to do this. I'd love to help you. And so we became friends, and he's just always kind of stayed in the loop. And, when we were filming in Klamath Falls, he sort of stepped up and filled many needs, including donating his warehouse where we shot scenes and we stored equipment.
Built the trailer.
We built Bobby's set there. He's a producer on the movie. I can't say enough about Ryan.
And his dad brought down their bucket truck to use when we filmed downtown, so our camera could get up really high. Yeah, they were great. And then Ben and Kim Piper, we actually met them at the Klamath Film Festival. I guess it was in 2016, so 2.5 years ago only. That's when we met them. We showed Black Road. And we had a really great Q&A afterwards, which now I know it was Ben asking all the questions. And they came up to us afterwards, introduced themselves, and we just started working with them from there. We didn't have a project really yet at that point, but kept in touch, and after a couple years, after a year, they got involved on this one.
And I also will shout out to Klamath Film Group, Klamath Film Festival, Jesse and Robin, who were, great allies here in Klamath for so many different reasons. And I think, there were a lot of MVPs on this project, but Robin actually deserves one of the MVPs. She came in without very, very little experience and worked as a coordinator on the movie. And I know Annie and Louie can speak to how great she was.
Took a lot of the tasks off of our plate that we just couldn't do. So she was our office person for the whole shoot.
Well, we used to be in LA, and being in Los Angeles, there's something being shot every single day. It's not a big deal. But when you get into smaller communities like Klamath Falls, where filming is really unusual, things can become iconic. I grew up in Eugene, and in Eugene, that community is synonymous with National Lampoon's Animal House. Astoria has The Goonies and Kindergarten Cop. Certain communities have become permanently connected with certain films that just happened to be shot there. Because so few things have been shot in Klamath Falls, this is, for lack of any other options, perhaps the Klamath Falls film now that everyone will remember and associate the community, which is kind of ironic in that you didn't name it Klamath Falls, Oregon. You named it Phoenix, Oregon. When you go home to Phoenix, is there a lot of perturbed friends that are angry at you for not filming?
It kind of is going both ways a little bit, but I think it's turning more into a joke than a perturbedness.
Yeah, I would say Phoenix, Oregon is a better title than Klamath Falls, Oregon. That's the first. That's the first thing.
Did he just say that?
Is that okay to say?
I think just you got to think of the title of the movie. You know, like Phoenix. I think of Paris, Texas. That there's a number of movies that do that play on words. When I first moved to Southern Oregon, I thought, Phoenix, Oregon, really? I was just shocked there was even a Phoenix, Oregon. It felt ridiculous to me. Now I'm used to it, but I think outside of the area, it'll take on a new life. Like, we're not in Arizona, we're in Phoenix, and these guys aren't in the quite where they want to be in their life yet. And I think the town comes off quaint and nice and a perfectly beautiful place to be. So there's that aspect too, where I think Klamath Falls and Phoenix should be proud.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely still feels like Phoenix. We've had that conversation before, and we had Phoenix residents at the world premiere, and they were super happy. They still felt like it represented kind of the feel of and the vibe of where they're from. Yeah.
And it's not that you don't want to be in the town. It's just that we all get to that point in our life where maybe we feel like we're not where we want to be yet. And they have to struggle with that in the film. And then, by the end, they're going to have some kind of resolution to that. It's not, you can see when you watch it. It's not like, oh my gosh, my life's awesome now or anything. It's real life. And they've been through a journey.
It is fun when you can visit spots that you recognize from a film. When I first moved to LA, every street corner, I went, oh wow, that's in that movie, that's in that TV show. After a while, I realized everything has been shot in Los Angeles. Who cares? But in Eugene, decades later, they still talk about the locations where National Lampoon's Animal House was shot. They still give mini tours sometimes. There's a little plaque out there. I think maybe in a few years they'll be as seen in Phoenix, Oregon, hanging in some of the various businesses where you shot.
Well, I know Barry at Handscams is really proud of this movie. He saw it and loved it, and I could totally see a poster hanging in his bowling center. And I think many of the locations will be proud to see it. I hope that the movie gets enough notoriety where that is the case.
Well, plans for the film. It made its world premiere at the Ashland Independent Film Festival. Tonight at Pelican Cinemas, there are 2 screenings, one at 7 and another at 7:30, followed by a Q&A session. So I do need to ask, how has the reception to the film been so far?
It's been really fabulous. We've been very warmly welcomed by all of our audiences, and they've been... I think people are really moved by the film. They laugh during the film. It's a lighthearted, good-natured film, and they're finding a lot of meaning in it and inspiration.
And how have the Q&As gone with audiences? What has the feedback been?
Really positive. Every movie's a little different, and you go through the process of sort of passing the movie to the world, and it's kind of happening right now. But our initial reactions are we feel very grateful that people are, tracking with the story, caring about Bobby, loving Carlos's performance, and laughing at the comedy bits in it. And I think, like Annie said, people are finding meaning in it, which is probably the most satisfying thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the plans for the film going forward? Is it going to have online distribution? Are you going to take it on the festival circuit? Or is that still kind of to be determined at this point?
Well, no, we're actually, with the world premiere, we launched a 70-city tour, basically. So we're doing pre-tour work right now. We're doing a lot of screenings in Oregon, and then June 13th we start a 70 city tour all the way through the United States, and then we'll have our last screening in Portland on August 25th. But so tomorrow it opens at the Pelican, so it's going to be playing there for the full week, multiple times a day. And the important thing for people in Klamath to know about an indie film is that if you see the film this week, it will continue playing. If people don't go to see it, any indie film, then they stop playing. So, we have a good chance to play for a couple weeks here just because I think a lot of people are interested in it right now. But if you like the film, for your audience, please tell people about it and encourage them to go see a locally made film and support independent cinema, support really meaningful art house cinema, because then the film can stay around a little bit longer, and it helps us and other people get to see it.
And then beyond theater now, there's so many avenues for a film to live on, be it Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime and all that. If there aren't any deals in place yet, maybe there's some conversations going on, but opportunities down the line maybe for the film to have a longer life cycle.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to build momentum through the summer, and our plan is to release in the fall digitally. So we do have distribution partners we've worked with in the past, so we'll partner with one of them or a new partner.
Terrific. Well, any hints at potential future projects? Because by the time you release something, you're already two projects down the line in terms of concept and scripting and all that.
Definitely. I think you have lots of lines in the water. I think making a film it's a team sport. So you need a lot of allies, and so you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. We have a few different feature projects that. Can't talk too much about. There's a horror film that again, a meaningful horror film, and a series we're developing, and another comedy. So it'll kind of just see organically what comes along. What hits. So fingers crossed, but it'll be something.
Yeah, most definitely. There's always projects in the works. It's just there's so many, variables when it comes to what falls into place. So, hopefully we're shooting something next year, but we'll see.
Sometimes scripts can float for a decade around Hollywood before there's a bite and it turns into a blockbuster. Who knew? So it's fascinating what happens behind the scenes, almost more so than what happens on the big screen. That's why you got to love films that kind of show the behind the scenes, like Get Shorty and whatnot, that kind of showcase some of the things you wouldn't expect to go into the process of filmmaking that actually do take place. Sometimes it's a little too true to life. I used to work in the music industry, and I remember I'd talked to a lot of musician friends who said they couldn't watch This Is Spinal Tap because that happened to them on tour once, or that's a little too true, or it's that sometimes the parody is a little too close to reality sometimes. But Phoenix, Oregon, produced by Joma Films, based out of Ashland, Oregon. It is showing tonight, Thursday, May 2nd, at Pelican Cinemas at 7, which is sold out 7:30. I think there may still be some tickets left. Both Gary and Annie and Luis are doing a Q&A after the films. And it's going to run at Pelican Cinemas for a week thereafter. The film was shot in Klamath Falls, so please go check it out. I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of locales that these fantastic actors were located in. So any final thoughts, Gary, Annie, Luis?
Oh, just thank you so much for having us here. We're excited for everybody to watch the film tonight and later in the week or in the next couple of weeks. So.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedules, and we all look forward to seeing the finished product of Phoenix, Oregon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.